What's good? It's Fever. So technical alpha for Blade and Soul NA has now ended, and I figured I'd collect my thoughts and share them with you. Now before I talk more about it, I did try the RU version of the game in the past, and between the Russian and the typical theme park MMO stuff, I think I quit before level 15, so I'm already a little bit biased against the game. And in addition to that, I was given free access to this alpha, as many content creators on YouTube and streamers on Twitch were, which is probably the only reason I logged into the game during Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. Now, that said, the next test phase is in like 4 days, and this game is already like 4 years old or something, so I don't imagine large changes. I think as we go through the beta, we might see some westernization of certain features and certain systems, but I don't imagine a big jump between now and Friday. This actually works well for me though, because it's going to allow me to separate the leveling experience from the experience at level cap. I made it almost through the 45 levels in the version that we have now and through this last technical alpha weekend, and it's what I'll focus on, well, kind of, for this video. I'll even further separate it between PvE and PvP, because one of those things is not like the other. The PvE in this game is the industry standard of like 5 years ago. Questing is hub to hub, collecting pages of quests with the sole purpose of having you kill reskins of the same mob types in different areas around the map. Nothing to really challenge you. The dungeons without holy trinities feel like dungeons without the holy trinity of tank, healer, DPS. And there were a few times where I even cleared the 4 or 6 man recommended areas solo because I didn't realize I walked into group content areas. Blade and Soul, through the leveling process, is an offender of what I dislike in MMOs, where most of the time all you have to do is show up. And this isn't to say that it's all awful, it's just that it's the formulaic PvE of a theme park MMO and nothing more. There's nothing to really hook you besides oiled tits. And combat. The combat in Blade and Soul is incredible. It's actually hard to describe because it's different than other action MMO games like Terra or Black Desert. Even if it sounds similar, it feels different. You wield 40 to 50 abilities, but it never quite feels that way. You only see about 10 of them on the screen, and those ability bars will change based on conditions. So if you're CC'd, or if your target is CC'd, if you're stealthed, if you're out of combat, if you've just blocked an attack, and so on and so on. It becomes less about managing an enormous amount of skills, and more about the game displaying your options at any given point. The combat is heavily combo-oriented, but it's not static. You weave together different types of crowd controls like stuns and knockdowns and knockups and roots and dazes and even a phantom grip kind of like Darth Vader force hold, and you get in your other attack skills, your other shots, while the target is helpless. You can fit in whatever damaging abilities you want during this time, and so you may have a different go-to combo than I do. You might have a different combo based on how much chi or the resource system you have currently. You might have a different combo because you want to fully debuff or fully buff yourself as the result as opposed to just dealing damage. It is the most satisfying and skill-oriented combat of any MMO I've ever played, and the way that you can morph and transform and create builds, I won't even touch on it, but it just makes everything so much deeper. The combat is so enjoyable that I imagine that people will think that they enjoy some of these PvE questing and running dungeons, but they're really just enamored with the combat. And I will also mention, because it's important to certain people, that there's no auto attack. You can evade all of the damage that gets thrown at you. Now, the PvP. It's ridiculous how good it is. It's like playing a fighting game like Street Fighter, but with MMO sensibilities. You might hear that you combo enemies into CC chains and kind of shudder to yourself, but I only listed some of the CC types, and each class has different breaks and ways to evade and escape from each type, let alone multiple ways to avoid the initial attacks altogether. PvP is all about counterplay, it's all mind games. Much like a fighting game, a lot of the skill is getting that initial hit, analyzing their play, finding a weakness, finding the opening. But because it's an MMO, it's also about things like tracking a cooldown, maintaining debuffs, deciphering the enemy's skill build, and the premier PvP type in this game is 1v1, which is rad as fuck. Imagine watching a fighting game, but imagine that Ryu, right from Street Fighter, his fireball boosted his damage by 10% for 10 seconds after it hit, so he's maintaining his fireball buff, and after every hurricane kick, his meter regens 10% every second for 10 seconds, and so that enables a combo if he can start it in the next 5 seconds. That's what happens here. It's almost like this added amount, this MMO-type depth, while retaining much of the individual mechanical skill that you get in a fighting game. Reacting to the enemy, guarding correctly, positioning yourself correctly, aiming correctly, catching a body bounce, hitting a guard break, air-to-airs, hit confirms, iframes, air juggles. The terminology of a fighting game in most cases transfers directly here because that's how the game plays. And when you get beat, you don't go, oh man, he must have had better gear, or his class is OP. What you're actually thinking is, man, I shouldn't have used decoy on that projectile, or shit, his first attack was a feint for me to use my stealth and I fell for it. And the esports scene around the game in the East shows that 1v1 balance in this game is pretty damn tight, so you can almost feel certain that there was something that you probably could have done better. Now, I can't talk too much about the balance because I've only been leveling up, and as you level up, you're gaining abilities and you're completing your skill kit. So the balance kind of is really wonky. It sways up and down based on when people get abilities that they need to counter certain situations. But even when it's wonky, it just feels so damn good. And if you've watched as I or other people have streamed, it really gives that like one more turn feeling where I'm like, you know, just one more duel and then I'll call it a night. And then 10 duels later, I'm like, fuck, I'm late for real life stuff. So, impression-wise, PvE is meh. It has the staples from an MMO of its age. It has the crafting, it has dungeons and story and bad voice acting, you know, the usual stuff. And while it does have some smaller things that are different, like the looting system, no one is going to play a game because the looting system is rad. But PvP, in combination with the combat, just carries the game, to the point that it's a really simple recommendation condition here. If you play games for PvE, you know, this is a standard game 5 years ago. If you play games for PvP, this is still an incredible experience. It's a yes or no based on if it's PvE or PvP, or I guess if you consider yourself a weeaboo, you could create your perfect waifu here. Now, I want to see how things change as I move into the level cap. I haven't done a whole lot of research on the game or the flexibility in builds or looked at any semblance of what content there is to do at max, so I'll reserve judgment a little bit until then, so I guess I'll see all that stuff soon enough and I'll let you know. Until next time, this is Fever. Peace.